In this video, we will be learning how to expand and condense log expressions in order to solve complex equations. So the product rule, quotient rule, and power rule of log functions. Product rule says that if you have two functions multiplied together, you can separate them by taking the log of each function and adding them together. The quotient rule states that if you have two functions that are divided, then you can separate them out as separate logs and subtract. And then the power rule is anytime you have the log of a function that is raised to an exponent, you can take that exponent and you can throw it out front of the log. So in order to expand this, we have two numbers that are divided, which means we can technically separate them into separate natural logs and subtract. In this case, the same thing. We have two numbers or two functions that are multiplied together, so we can actually separate the functions and add them together. Now, in this case, we can even go further because log base 2 of 8 is the number 3 because 2 to the third power equals 8. So we technically could actually say that this is 3 plus log base 2 of x. And then log of 5, so we actually have multiple things that are being multiplied together. So we can separate them out as log of 5 of 3 plus log of 5 of z plus log 5 of the square root of x. Now here's where we cannot stop though. The square root of x is technically x raised to the 1/2. And we learned that anytime you have an exponent, you can actually throw it out front. So your final answer would be log base 5 of 3 plus log base 5 of z plus 1/2 log base 5 of x. In this case, you have the cube root of an entire function. So you have a quotient rule, but if you think about, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, order of operations, then the first thing you need to do is this exponent, since this exponent covers all of it. So a cube root is the same thing as something being raised to the 1/3. So you're going to bring a 1/3 out front, and then you can take the natural log of the numerator, and then you're going to subtract because it's division. Now I'm going to put a parentheses because I have more than one thing that is in the denominator. So I need both parts of the denominator to stay together. So I have natural log of y squared, which we're going to have to do something with because the square, and then plus, since you have two functions multiplied together, you can add the natural log of x plus 1. Now this 2 is an exponent, which means technically it needs to go in front. And that would be the final expansion of this function. So you can also condense. So anytime you have a number in front, that means it was an exponent. So you could say that this is the natural log of x squared. And this 3 also was originally an exponent. So you could say that the natural log of x plus 1 was raised to the third power. Now, you have two natural logs added together, which means you can condense them by multiplying them together. And that would be your final answer. When you have two natural logs added, it means you can multiply the functions together. Again, 1/2 means that that actually was an exponent, which is log of the square root of x, because 1/2 is the same thing as square root of x. Also this 3. This 3 was an exponent. So log minus 4 cubed. Now, a minus also means that you can have two functions that are divided. So you have the square root of x over x minus 4 cubed would be your final answer of condensing. So on this 1/3 is being multiplied by everything inside here, which means you need to switch this out. This 1/3 was an exponent of everything on the inside. So this is the natural log of y plus the natural log of y plus 3 squared, because remember this 2 can go right here. And then all of that is raised to the 1/3 in the natural log of y minus 1. Now, when you have two natural logs added, that means you actually can multiply them together. So technically this is the natural log of y times y plus 3 squared, and all of that is raised to the 1/3. And then the minus means division. Am I going to write that yet? So we are going to end up dividing. So 1/3 is the same thing as the cube root. And then minus means that you can divide that function by the other function. And this should be the condensed version of that function. Now, this is not a property, and a lot of students do get this mixed up. They see the subtraction and they automatically think you can subtract the logs. That is not what this means. Inside the log, you have to have the multiplication or division. These can be switched or changed to where you can expand them. Or in this case, no, or in this case, it would be log of 2 plus log of x. But if you have a function that's on the inside by parentheses, that has to stay together. This x minus 2 is one function. It's not two functions. So you cannot expand log of x minus 2 to be log of x minus log of 2. Because again, this right here, x minus 2, actually represents division. So please do not separate that out. So what I want you to do is pause the video, and I want you to work through these problems and then hit resume so that you can see how I have worked it out. So you have log of x minus 7 and x plus 1. You have two logs added, which means you multiply them, and all of that is being raised to the 3/2. So you could leave it like that. Something raised to the half is the same thing as a square root. And so you could do the x minus 7 cubed and x plus 1 cubed is technically how it would go about. Or you can make one long parentheses around these two and just have it raised to the 3rd power. But the 2 in the denominator means it's a square root, and then the 3 just means that both parentheses should be raised to the 3rd power. In this case, this 2/3 goes on the outside, this 4 goes on the outside, so I have the natural log of 5x to the 6 to the 2/3, and then minus means you would divide, and you would have x to the 4th. You could leave it like that, or this is a cube root, and then you could have 5x squared divided by x to the 4th. And then expanding, so we have two functions in the numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and use parentheses just to keep them together. We have the square root of w plus log x to the 4th. And then division means you would subtract, and you have two things in the denominator together. They're being multiplied together, so I'm going to use another parentheses to keep them together. And it would be log base 3 of y to the 7th plus log base 3 of z squared. Now the only problem is we still have exponents up here. So the square root is the same thing as 1/2. This 4 needs to go down front. This 7 needs to go down front. And this 2 needs to go down front. And that should be the expanded version of that function.